We don't have to wait for disruptions. We don't have to wait for regulatory changes. We don't have to wait for funding to be withdrawn from the companies that we are working on. We don't have to wait even for things in our families that stretch our capacity, like even children going to college or marriage or whatever demands puts an extra demand on our finances. We can be intentional about our gates of wealth and learn to keep them open day and night so that we can navigate life well. Hello and welcome to the Gates of Wealth podcast. My name is Lydia Gashanja. I'm a financial coach and a Gates of Wealth strategist. I help people align their finances, unlock wealth so that they can enjoy their current season and also fulfill God's dreams for their lives. And there's something that I've noticed as I have continued to coach professionals in this journey, that we show up for our careers, we show up for deadlines, we show up for the people who need us. But when it comes to our financial well-being, we cancel, we postpone, we assume it will work itself out, but it doesn't always. And I know this because this is something that I've lived. It's my lived experience. And I remember how this was disrupted. One Friday morning, had gone to work normally, and I was invited into the boardroom. And I thought, we used to have those external client meetings in the boardroom. The rest would have them in the normal workspace. And I remember asking myself, I don't have any external meeting schedule, so what's going on? So I went into the boardroom, I sat down. One of the things I noticed that the HR was there. I was very unsettled, but minutes within the conversations, I realized that a restructure is happening. Actually, I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't ever think that it was going to impact me. And the rest of the conversation was a blur. I can't remember a thing because my mind shifted to something else. My mom had been sick and had taken a loan for her treatment. And my question was, how are we going to manage this financially? It was just 2 weeks into her treatment in India that this conversation happened. How am I going to manage this financially? And I had focused on working on my career. I had focused on progressing career-wise. But what I didn't factor is that disruptions could happen. And the career that I thought was so undisruptible, I used to say that it's like a double-edged sword. Whatever is happening in the economy, I will always have work. And here I was at the time where I needed money, but it was disrupted. So that was a wake-up call. It was such a contrast, even at looking at my background. I spent time advising companies on how to have solid financial futures, but my own, I was on autopilot. And were it not for the final compensation that is paid when you're restructured, it could have been a very difficult journey. And so I started digging, what are these gates of wealth? Because I came across a scripture that talks about gates of wealth. And I was asking myself, what are these gates of wealth that ought to be open day and night so that wealth can flow? And I've taken many professionals through that process. They're meant to remain open day and night so that the wealth can flow. And so that when transitions are happening, we don't have to suffer the way we don't have to go through such a rough time. So this pattern, I've seen it in many professionals. Yes, they are bright, they are earning well, but we need to become more intentional about managing our gates of wealth. And so today, I want us to start with this conversation. We don't have to wait for disruptions. We don't have to wait for regulatory changes. We don't have to wait for funding to be withdrawn from the companies that we are working on. We don't have to wait even for things in our families that stretch our capacity, like even children going to college or marriage or whatever demands puts an extra demand on our finances. We can be intentional about our gates of wealth and learn to keep them open day and night so that we can navigate life well. So 3 lessons for today. And the first one is that we have a responsibility to be present. A lot of us are absent at our gates of wealth. Gates of wealth, everybody has them. And a gate is an access point where wealth flows, that an access point of wealth to come into our lives. So individuals have gates. Businesses have gates. Governments have gates. And when we manage them well, wealth flows continuously. And when we think about a gate, you're required to be there and to watch. Absence is not neutral. Yeah, it's not neutral. When you're not present at your gate of wealth, the flow will still happen. The opportunities will still come. The money will still come, but it's not going to be directed intentionally. And that's where the risk is. So the patterns that don't serve you grow deeper. The habits deepen. The outcomes form, whether they're the desired outcomes that you want or not. So it's like leaving a field without planting anything. Of course, weeds are going to grow. Yeah. And we don't want that when it comes to our finances. We want to be intentional. And the second thing, once you show up at your gates of wealth, once you make time to be intentional about your gates of wealth, the next thing to think about is to observe. You cannot be there and be on autopilot. So sit there and observe the flow. What's coming in? What's going out? Where is it going? And this phase, you don't need to judge. You just need clarity and awareness. So stay there long enough to notice the patterns, to notice the risks, to notice even the triggers that cause certain flows to happen, and resist the urge to fix immediately. The other thing about observing and sitting at your gates of wealth, just ensure that you're focusing on it like a lifestyle. This is not something that you do with intensity and then you take off and you're not consistent. Think about something that you can do as a lifestyle. And a good example is the way we brush teeth. We can't just decide that I'm going to be brushing teeth once a month, and because it takes like 10 minutes, you do the math and you're like 10 minutes, not 10 minutes, 10 seconds, no? 1 minute times 30 days, and you decide you're going to brush your teeth once a month. It doesn't work like that. So it requires consistency, because consistency compounds, neglect compounds. So what we need is a governance rhythm, not bursts of attention. And so with that, we have the first step locked in. You're there at your gates of wealth. You're observing the patterns. You're seeing how the wealth flows. And when you see, you cannot remain in the same position. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the next episode. You will have to make decisions. So I want to ask a question, even as I close. Have you been present at your gates of wealth? Have you been taking time to observe what's coming in, what's going out, and what's triggering it? Because before you can make decisions, before you can apply strategy, before you can make any changes, you have to observe. And you have to sit there long to know what's going on. And this is a responsibility that we have, one that cannot be delegated, one that even God cannot do for you, because it's already been delegated to you. He only does what we cannot do. And so if this one has challenged you, come into the next one, where we'll be talking about how to make decisions, because it's not just observation, it's also about decisions. And share this episode with your friends, with your colleagues, in your circles widely. Subscribe to the channel. And if you're ready to begin your alignment journey, to be present consistently with a guide, you'll also find how to take the first step in the show notes below. And until then, remember to take your seats at your gates of wealth. Bye.